Hello, once again, everybody. This is Corey Edwards, life coach, executive coach. Uh, Hit the like button, click and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the content. Today's subject matter is going to be post-slave traumatic disorder. I'm bringing this up because as a life coach, my responsibility is to be a partner in the coach-client relationship when it comes to helping my clients achieve their goals and dreams. Part of that responsibility is to help my clients remove obstacles, whether they're mental, emotional, physical. Help them remove those obstacles that are in their way that is preventing them from reaching their goals and dreams. Part of the issue, or part of the challenge that we have as human beings, is dealing with trauma. And one of the best individuals in that or on that subject matter is Dr. Joy DeGruy. Dr. DeGruy, I'm pulling up her page right now. I'm going to show a clip of her in a moment. But let me see how this works here. Yeah. Perfect. Dr. DeGruy. She's a world-renowned professor in this field of social work and sociology. She holds a Bachelor's of Science degree in communication, Master's degree in social work, Master's degree in clinical psychology, PhD in social work research. She's nationally, internationally renowned researcher and educator for over 20 years. She's a professor of all things that deal with racism, trauma, violence, and American chattel slavery. My clientele, really, because of my choosing, is going to be the African American community. But again, my clientele will or can include anyone who wants or desires a life coach. And but this is a passion of mine. This is something that I want to assist in. So we're going to watch a clip of Dr. DeGruy define this obstacle that really plays a really large and unheralded role in our lives in the Black community. We deal with a lot of dysfunction in our community to the point where it is normal. And unfortunately, some of us don't know what functional, healthy relationships look like because we haven't seen it before. But let's take a look at this, and I'll discuss. I'll provide my commentary as we discuss this subject.
Post-traumatic slave syndrome is an explanatory theory that really looks at multi-generational trauma. One of the things that's difficult for people is their first response is, oh my God, that happened so long ago. We're talking about people being captured, shipped, sold, beaten, raped, experimented on. And then you have to ask the question, did the trauma continue? Yes. So 300 years of trauma, no help, freed. No help, more trauma. If it's a sustained trauma, then the impact of that is also sustained. When we look at multi-generational trauma, we're looking at people who are maybe victims of natural disasters and their families and their children and generations of folks who have experienced war. And we know that there are residual mental, emotional, traumatic impact. And what I did was I started to look at the African-American experience, starting with slavery as...
So let me reiterate or reframe what she is about to explain here. So whatever trauma that may have happened in the past does play a role in the present. because when you experience trauma, especially if you're a young person, if you're a child, and there's no treatment for it, and you're not aware of what you experienced, you carry that emotional baggage with you. You carry that emotional baggage with you when you become an adult. You carry that emotional baggage with you when you have children. And you, whether you want to realize it or not, consciously or subconsciously, you are passing on some of those behaviors on to your children. And these are the things that we have to come to grips with, both as a community and as a country. The social impact of slavery, chattel slavery specifically, because there is a difference between slavery and chattel slavery, and its impact on us personally, community wise, and as a country. But again, as a life coach, I deal with the individuals. Now, if you're experiencing trauma to the point where it's affecting your lifestyle in a negative way, then you need to seek therapy. A life coach is not a therapist. A life coach is a partner um, in your journey to being the best person you can be. And again, that's whether it's personal or professional. But if you're experiencing something that is negatively affecting your relationships at home or at work, then that requires therapy. But being a life coach is not that. We'll continue on here.
A real clear, long enduring trauma. I started to see that there were clear connections between that survival behavior and contemporary living in African American experience. I started to see common behaviors that I took for granted as, well, cultural. There's adaptive behaviors, survival behaviors. Well, what are they? Let's just say 2019, you have a black mother and a white mother. The sons go to school together. They find themselves at a meeting. The black mother leans over to the white mother and says, I just wanted to mention to you that I noticed that your son is really doing quite well. And the white mother's response is, oh, thank you. She begins to go on and on about he won the science fair, his uncle's an astronaut. She's just oozing. She realizes the black mother's son is actually excelling her son. And she says, well, wait a minute. Your son's the one that's really coming along. And the black mother responds, oh my God, he's a handful, but oh, he just works my nerves. Now, when I'm working with African American people, it doesn't matter what the audience is. It doesn't matter what class. If I were to ask, is she very proud while she's saying those denigrating things? And everybody laughs and goes, of course, there's a secret. Because everybody black knows that even though the black mother is going, oh my God, she's really proud. So now let's roll that scene back 300 years. And let's say this black mother is working in the fields and a white slave owner comes through and says, wow, that boy is really coming along. What is she going to say? No, he's not. He's stupid. He's shiftless. He can't work because I don't want you to sell him. So I denigrate them to protect them. That is called appropriate adaptation.
Appropriate adaptation to save your son. So moving now into today's society, another example of appropriate adaptation in order to save your son is giving your son asexual names, such as Stacy, Leslie, Corey, relative named Tiffany, have a asexual name. So you're giving your sons, at least you think you're giving your son some level of protection, because giving your son an asexual name, something soft, something mild, something perhaps feminine, you're thinking that you're protecting them in some way, because when you are introduced to society, if you're a big, quote, big black man, but your name is Stacy, or your name is Leslie, or your name is Corey, then that conveys some type of gentleness, right? It's not as masculine. It's not as strong. It's something that some people can feel comfortable with. Um, Another example could be if you are not, if you really don't, if you're not providing uh, nurturing, emotional nurturing, hugs, kisses, um, affirmations, hugs and kisses, and encouraging your child. And this is for sons and daughters. If you're not reaffirming their talents, if you're not encouraging them to be the best that they can be in a positive way versus denigration, are you really doing your child a service or a disservice? If you are not giving your children the emotional nourishment that they need, hugs and kisses, and being present in their lives, and constant encouragement, are you providing positive or negative? Are you providing a positive or negative influence on your child? That's things you have to consider. So, what happens to that child as they become an adult? How are they? How are they dealing with society, or how is society dealing with them? These are questions you have to think about. Let's continue.
Living in a hostile environment. The little white boy, say Timmy, he feels really comfortable and happy about what his mom just said about him. And Trey looks at his mom and wonders, why can't you be proud of me? Because he doesn't understand the secret yet. And by the time he learns the secret, he will have already been injured by it. Post-traumatic slave syndrome. PTSD is a disorder that occurs as a result of a single trauma. You don't even have to be there to actually get a diagnosis of post-traumatic stress disorder. You could just hear about something horrific happening to someone you love. So you have people who have experienced it firsthand, people who have witnessed it in their environment, right? People who are continuing to be oppressed. That exacerbates any possibility of healing. So it's not post-traumatic stress disorder, because then it becomes part of what we call your socialization process. So you begin to.
So you don't even have to experience it. You can just hear it. You can hear about someone close to you, or just someone in general that may have been raped or abused, and that can affect you in different kinds of ways, especially if you hear it a lot. So you can have direct trauma or indirect trauma, and those things can affect you in a negative way. Let's continue.
Normalize a way of living and being. Everything from what we eat to what we believe it means to be a friend. All of these things are colored by history. And if you don't understand it, you're going to fold in things that you've just assumed are normal. But post-traumatic stress disorder, exaggerated startle response, outbursts of anger, feeling of foreshortened future. There was a point where there were African American children in different urban settings that didn't expect to live to be adults because they saw so much death that they started planning their funerals like at 13, 12, as young as 10. When you start looking at the simple biology, you start looking at the impact of stress on health. And while we look at general stress, we know finances, you have illnesses, all these different things. How about being black? How does factoring in being black in America impact your stress level and therefore your body's ability to operate its own immune system? Because we know it compromises the immune system. Once you understand it, then you can deal with it. Because you see,
Once you understand it, you can deal with it. I'll say it again. Once you understand it, you can deal with it. Oftentimes, we will categorize trauma or stress in our lives as a curse. As a curse. Curses aren't real. I'll say it again. Curses are not real. A curse is essentially a behavior that you're not aware of, that you don't know how to resolve, and it continues and it goes on and on and on and on. Generational curses simply means that you don't understand the behavior, you don't understand when it occurred, how it occurred, yet that behavior continues to go on and on and on. It's passed down from one generation to the next. That curse simply means a lack of knowledge and a lack of understanding of what it is and how to resolve it. If you understand what it is, then you can at the very least work towards resolving it. But until you determine what it is, you can't resolve anything. So curses aren't real. Lack of knowledge and understanding is real. And we need to challenge ourselves and each other to gain better understanding of whatever it is that's holding us back or keeping us from living our best lives. Let's continue.
Habitual. You socialize. It becomes part of your being. So one of the ways you begin to address that multi-generational trauma is to work with the people it directly impacts, to hear from them. And when you give the people the information, they can use it. I think the first order of business is beginning to have a conversation. And the other is to educate the larger society. You have to stop the assault. So this is not purely a clinical thing. This requires social justice and change. That's where part of the healing is. It's not in a clinical setting or in a pill. It's in fairness and justice and safety and equity. We got to work with some of those clinical things, some of those issues of panic and anxiety. And we also have to deal with the fact that you have a system that is set up to oppress you and to continue to injure you. Both those things have to be dealt with. And they can't.
And that's really why it's important for the community and the families to understand their situation and really start working within themselves first, and then reaching out and moving forward. You have to start with you first, and then moving forward, reaching out to the community, to family, things like that. But until you are able to at least get an understanding of what's going on with you internally, then it's not beneficial in moving forward with anything else.
Cannot singularly by themselves affect a change. They have to be done collectively.
So that's it for this one. Again, if you want to set up an appointment with me, you can go to kussolife.com, kussolife.com. It also falls under aboriginal.america.com, aboriginal.america.com. I'm not spelling that. I can, but I'm not. But in the meanwhile, thank you for listening. Again, click the like button, click the subscribe button. Thank you. Be blessed and stay human.